Really, dude?
What? What am I doing now? All
I
am
want
is
to be Polka Dot Man.
No, we discussed earlier. I was gonna be Polka Dot Man, and you were gonna be King Shark or Harley Quinn.
Oh, shit. I think I was supposed to be King Shark.
Alright, what's up, guys? It's Shoppy Flops, and we're here reviewing Suicide Squad. It's finally out in theaters and on HBO Max. So if you haven't watched it yet, we're going to have a non-spoiler section and a spoiler section, so you can watch up to that point, but I'd suggest going and watching the movie now before even watching the rest of the video. But before we get on with the review, if you could, leave a like on the video. It definitely helps out the channel. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell so that way you're notified of all my upcoming content. Don't forget to share this with somebody else who's into the Suicide Squad or who's seen the movie. And leave a comment and let us know what you thought of the movie. We'd love to hear your thoughts and your theories on where it's going to go in the future. But alright, getting into the review and our non-spoiler section. I mean, let's just go ahead and say it. The movie was amazing. I already knew it was going to be good, being that it was James Gunn and the amazing cast that he had behind him. The fact that they were pretty much letting him do whatever he want, and they told him, you know, you have free range pretty much. It was bound to be good, but boy did it blow my expectations out of the water. Like, I mean, shit, it's got to be one of my new favorite movies. I mean, not only is it like one of my by far my favorite DC movie that's out right now. Period.
Oh yeah, easy.
Like hands down. But just I mean, it's just one of like up there in one of my favorite movies of all time. Like that shit was good. It's a good film. As much as it is just a good popcorn flick. I mean, if you want to go and pick it apart and, you know, say, oh, well, how's the cinematography and the writing and everything else? It's amazing. Yeah. All of it. It's good. If you want to just go in there and turn your brain off and watch some crazy nonstop gore and colorful action and crazy nonsense and just this bonkers wild story that is just an awesome wild ride, it's perfect for that too. It has just... It's amazing from start to finish. It's definitely not a family movie.
No.
If you're not into gore, or into, you know, like really like heavy, visceral, gruesome action, this probably won't be for you, unfortunately. But if you're into that stuff, or if you're cool with that kind of stuff, you're gonna love it. I mean, the violence in it is, it's ultra violence. It's like Mortal Kombat levels of violence in some parts of it. It's amazing.
Literally.
Like there's parts that seem like they're fatalities.
Yeah.
I mean, and I mean, it shows some of the shots in the trailers that look like. I mean, we'll get to more of that in the spoiler section, I'm sure, but I don't want to talk too much about it right now. One thing that I did want to bring up is that most of this movie was shot practically, and like on locations, on actual sets. It wasn't like a bunch of green screens and blue screens, like, and you can tell, you can see it and you can feel it with the explosions and everything. Like, and it says that it was filmed for IMAX. I would love to see this on IMAX. We actually ended up streaming it on HBO Max at home. But even though, you know, I loved it that way, I still would love to. I would definitely be willing to pay the money to go see it in any capacity if I could, or if I had to. Another thing that I wanted to mention was just the James Gunn of it all. Like, it is such a James Gunn movie. The color of it is amazing. You know, James Gunn just loves color. You can tell with the Guardians movies. You can tell with this movie. Not only are the color palettes like very carefully and very intentionally picked, but they're just so wide, and you've got such a wide spectrum of colors, and they're all, you know, bright and vibrant, while at the same time, you know, giving that real grittiness that people, you know, want from a DC movie. Another thing is another James Gunnism, if you will, is the music in the movie. The music is ridiculously good, as everyone would have expected from a James Gunn film. the one thing that I love about James Gunn, and he mentioned this in one of the behind the scenes features in one of the Guardians movies, is that he doesn't really like to just use a bunch of popular songs or a bunch of songs that are popular at the time. He likes to use a bunch of B-side songs, a bunch of songs that he really likes that are near and dear to him, that are good and fit the moment, but aren't necessarily the most popular ones. And on top of that, he's very, like I said, he's very intentional with where he puts the music and how he uses it, what songs he chooses and when to put them. I'm not gonna really talk too much about it, but in the first scene, the first song that plays, you can tell that it was very intentionally picked, that he chose. He said, I don't remember when, but he said that he has an iPod full of thousands of songs that he just uses for movies and has select, like, in his head, ready for, like, this would be great for one of these scenes or that scene, you know what I mean? And you can definitely see that he's using that again for this movie. I mean, like I said, as expected, but oh man, I was just so happy with it. And the last thing I wanted to talk about really quick before we get into spoilers and everything is this movie, like I said, it's not for everybody, that's for sure, because of the gore and the vulgarity. But for anyone who's into that kind of stuff, it is for anyone, in terms of you don't have to be a comic book fan to enjoy this movie. You don't have to be a person who really digs the superhero genre or is into all the superhero movies to really like it. Like I said, if those few things, if you don't mind more adult movies, then you'll love this movie. It tells you who the characters are in the right way. One of the major things that I hated about the original Suicide Squad movie in 2016 is that you really had to know the characters and understand who they were to have any semblance of what was going on. Well, not what was going on, but to understand the characters, to really enjoy the film and those performances. You had to just understand the characters already, or be able to read it at lightning speed when it flipped through a 5-second title card about who this person was or that person was. And it felt like it was just kind of like shoving them out the door, like, all right, here's this person, next, here's this person, next. And you didn't really get the chance to feel that character and who they were, or get any, there was no character development other than one scene in a bar that, like, doesn't have any real good character development. And you know what, I realized that was probably why he did a really good bar scene, to show that there could be a good bar scene where a bunch of character development is done the right way, instead of how they did it in the first one. But we'll get more into that scene in the spoiler section. But yeah, other than that, also I wanted to mention that there really wasn't many connections to the first Suicide Squad. You don't have to have seen that one at all. We've watched it 3 times before our review, and I don't think I've spotted a single reference to the one from 2016 at all.
You can stretch it and say because she knows, oh, hey Flag, hey Boomer.
Right.
She could technically know them from.
You can tell they've been around before. There's little winks and nods of like, oh yeah, I knew them. I've hung around with them before. But also, there are other characters that seem like they've existed in this universe for a while. So it's not only the characters that are carried over that feel like they've been living in a living universe, so to speak. Also, it doesn't seem like there's any definitive timestamp of when this movie is set at all. So I mean, it's the Suicide Squad. It's no spoilers that some characters are gonna die. But the characters that do, I don't see any reason that they can't go back and revisit those characters. So don't get too attached, but also don't get too sad when anything happens to a specific character. I'd say just go into this and know that it's a free-for-all, that anything could happen to anybody, and you're going to have a fun and wild ride the whole time. And it's going to be full of a bunch of colorful powers and colorful vocabularies and just a bunch of crazy nonsense that you're gonna love the whole way through, as long as, like I said, you're okay with the gore and the violence and stuff like that. All right, getting past that, we're gonna go ahead and start talking about spoilers now. So if you haven't seen the movie, click away now, go watch the movie, then come back. You can watch the rest of the video, tell us all about what you thought about the movie, what you thought about the video. But first, go watch it. Do not watch past here without watching the movie. I would recommend just checking it out first. It's a damn good movie. It's only 2 hours long.
So good.
I mean, go check it out. But alright, that's your final warning. If you haven't seen it, we're going to start spoiling the rest of it from here on out. So you either have seen it or you don't care. So, alright, let's get into it. So, the whole fucking first squad dies. All fucking TDK, Captain Boomerang, they kill Captain Boomerang.
Yeah.
What the fuck? Like, right the fuck off the bat, that not only they kill Captain Boomerang, Javelin, TDK, Mongal, Savant, Weasel dies.
In the very beginning.
Yeah, fucking, they kill off all of the fucking,
They can't swim.
Yeah, so many of these characters that they've been hyping up all this time, and, like... Blackguard, that's the one, that's the other one that I was missing. Oh, fucking Blackguard. I couldn't believe it, man. I was so excited to see Pete Davidson and Nathan Fillion and all these characters.
And he was doing so good already. I mean, he didn't even really do anything.
Yeah,
but...
and as I've watched the movie a few times, I've thought about it, and really, Blackguard is a weaker, shittier, more punk-ass blood sport. Javelin literally just throws a javelin.
And Boomerang throws.
Boomerang throws boomerangs, and really, like, what else? TDK, he just, I mean, what the hell was he really going to do in the mission at all? And the one person that I really... Captain Boomerang, that's what I was talking about. Well, I'll talk about him in a minute. The main one that I wanted to stick around was Savant, and it seemed like it was setting him up to be a pretty big, important character from the beginning. I mean... The movie starts with him. And so you imagine it's going to be him, but then I thought about it too. What would he have done? He's basically just another Deadshot, and Bloodsport and fucking Peacemaker we're both essentially like Deadshot, just weapons experts. That's what Savant was a weapons expert.
Even Harley Quinn likes to dabble in some weapons.
So really, a lot of the characters that died, they weren't going to be of much use in this, and as much as I would have loved to see some of them and some of their powers more, and like, the main thing was I would have liked to have seen some of those characters, some of those fucking actors work together. That was the main thing, but it's cool. We did still get a good little scene in the beginning of it. That was fucking hilarious when they were in the plane and all that, and when they were getting ready and everything. But Captain Boomerang, I did want to talk a little bit more about his death. So, it kind of sucks that it happens. It's a big deal because that was one of the few characters that people actually liked from the first one. Mm-hmm. And one of the few characters that they carried over, obviously. I think it was a big thing to show, like a big shock factor type thing. Not only that, I think that really he wouldn't have had much use after the first one. I mean, what else would he have done? Throw some other explosive boomerangs or something like that? You know what I mean? I just don't see much use for. I don't blame them. And like I said, I could definitely see them revisiting a lot of these characters. I don't see why they can't do movies that are set before now or after it, that they have some way of bringing back a character, because it's comic books, man. Like, it's all wacky and goofy and doesn't make no damn sense. But so I guess while we're talking about deaths, we might as well go ahead and talk about the other people who die in it. Peacemaker kind of dies. Not really, but, we'll talk about that more with the post-credit scene. Rick Flag, he dies. That was a hard one. That one hurt. That sucked really fucking bad. Because he was actually pretty cool in the first movie. Even with all the memes, he was still pretty cool. And they did him really well in this movie, and they made you a lot more attached to pretty much all of the characters, and so that shit hurt. That sucked, especially because it was Peacemaker that did it, and like you learn to love Peacemaker throughout it. Like he becomes one of the most lovable characters throughout the entire fucking movie, and then he fucking well, like you said earlier, he doesn't really turn so much as he just doesn't change, and he keeps in line with his goals.
Stays to mission.
Yeah, he stays on mission, and
because even when Rick Flag says they experimented on children, I'm not saying what they did was wrong. I'm just saying we can't.
It was right, but yeah, he said it.
I'm not saying it's right.
Yeah.
And he said it again. They experimented on children.
Yeah. And then the death that got me the most, that sucks the most for me. I mean, obviously, fucking Polka Dot Man. That sucks, man. He was my favorite in the movie anyway, before the movie even released. I mean, that was the
thing.
Yeah, I've always loved Polka Dot Man. He's such a ridiculous villain. But actually, speaking of, some of my favorite villains have always been the most ridiculous ones. And pretty much my 3 favorite ones have always been Polka Dot Man, Calendar Man, and Crazy Quilt. And I'm not 100% sure, but when they're going to get Ratcatcher 2, they see someone who's got tattooed all over that looks like it is a female version of Crazy Quilt. I am 99% sure that's got to be a version of Crazy Quilt, either from the comics or just like a new version of it that they're doing for the movies. And then we get Sean Gunn, not only as Weasel, but as Calendar Man. So pretty much 3 of my most favorite obscure Batman villains showed up, and I never thought I'd see any of them on screen, much less all 3 of them in the same movie. And man, it was so good. And honestly, I can't be mad, because with Polka Dot Man, really, where else would they have used him? I mean, he wouldn't have been a good like protagonist. Now I could see them maybe using him as like a beginning villain, you know, at the start of a movie, but honestly, they have so many rogues for Batman that they'll probably use before that. I'm just happy I got to see him on screen at all. Yeah. And honestly, he got a lot of good screen time. He got a lot of really good, awesome moments. We got to see some badass uses of his powers. It was really cool, man. I was totally happy with how they did Polka Dot Man. It does suck that he died, but it was still cool. And I mean, same thing with Rick Flag, honestly. And a lot of the characters that died at the beginning, other than Captain Boomerang, really a lot of those characters probably weren't going to get used to begin with. And one thing that me and her kept noticing is that it keeps saying, oh, the famous Suicide Squad, or oh, I'm not joining your Suicide Squad. You know what I mean? And at the beginning of the 2016 one, she was just forming the Suicide Squad. So if, you know, it is all canonical and it all works chronologically, then that means that this has to be set a little bit ahead. And she's had a few different squads in the past, and worked on and off with maybe some of the other ones before. And point is, they could still probably revisit quite a few of these characters in one way or another, and just do a prequel of some sort or something that's set beforehand, because they leave it very ambiguous. Either way, like I said, a lot of those characters, though, they really wouldn't have been used, and we're lucky to have gotten most of them on screen at all in any capacity. Getting more into the movie, I wanted to talk about, so when they are sending them out onto the beach in that first scene, they're all having that little death pool, and they're betting on who's gonna die first. Because
who's worked with who.
I assume they all knew that they were getting sent out there to die. And so they're betting who's gonna die first, who's gonna, what order it's gonna be, and all that. And then during the intro, after you find out there's a team 2 and all that, and we get past the whole intro where everybody dies, and Savant gets his fucking head blown off. Oh, and that's another thing real quick I wanted to talk about, is the lettering in this entire movie. is fucking awesome. Like when he gets his head blown off, that his blood and guts, his house says Warner Brothers Presents. And then later when it says Jotunheim, it's like all the piping and everything like that. When it says Now, it's like the leaves and shit like that. Brilliant way to like put in the
and Dirty Little Secrets is the elevator button.
Yeah, or 3 days later it's the soap. Brilliant way to put in lettering, but without, you know, just putting it right on the screen and throwing it in text. You know what I mean?
It's literally like a graphic novel that you're seeing.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, and that was said in one of the special features that we were watching, that they mentioned that it's like a graphic novel come to life. And it truly is. There are so many moments where you could feel, like, the panels going side by side. And, like, I was talking about it earlier when Blackguard is saying, oh, I made the offer. You know, oh, we got a deal, right? You can see that play out in panels. And then the big, you know, reveal of the middle of the page being his face blown out. And then, you know, Rick Flag saying, oh, we gotta retreat. And then Waller saying no. And then, you know, Harley Quinn
being like,
getting
okay,
ready and saying okay. And then the next page being a big splash page where you see the fucking explosion that she just caused. And then, you know, the next one, Captain Boomerang, you know, starts off in the next panel and blah, 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 so on and so forth. It feels like a comic book, a true comic book movie. It also with the way that it cuts back and forth with the editing, how it'll be like, you know, oh, like this was 3 days earlier, you know, and then it gets up to now, and then like, and it just shows them recruit, and then it says boom, now that this is what's happening now, and then, you know, at the end you see what's happening, and then it cuts 8 minutes later or 8 minutes earlier. And that's how comics do that, is they just cut and you'll see, you know what I mean, and it'll just cut to whatever it needs to be. It was so well done, and so well edited. Just everything about this film was done masterfully, and you can tell that not only does he love the genre, that he loves comic books and everything like that, but he loves film, and he really made what he wanted to make with this. And it's brilliant that they actually let him, you know, do everything that he wanted to do. I mean, they literally told him, kill whoever you want to kill. And then on top of that, they let him get away with so much shit. And I love it. I love it so much. I mean, he needed to be given the reins and just made whatever he wanted to make. And it was perfect. He picked the perfect characters. He picked just everything about it was done just so well. But anyway, getting back to the death pool that I was talking about. So when they're talking, or when they're doing all that, and, you know, when they're like, oh, yeah, and they're, like, celebrating and shit, it seems fucked up. And you want to be like, oh, that's messed up. That's wrong. But then, like, when he flipped off Weasel on the screen, I started thinking about it. I was like, oh, wait, yeah, they're villains. They've all done shitty things. They've all probably killed multiple people.
Yeah, and Rick Flag said in there about Weasel, he killed, like, 27 kids.
Yeah, and you see Blackguard, he's just a straight-up punk-ass asshole to Bloodsport when he's cleaning.
Yeah.
So, like, you think about it, and it's like, oh yeah, they're all probably a bunch of assholes.
Yeah. Look what Savon did to the bird.
Who deserve way worse than what they got, probably. And so, like, for a second you're like, oh, that's a little fucked up, and then you think about it, you're like, oh, never mind, wait. But, so, speaking of people being fucked up and being, you know, the good guy, fucking Amanda Waller. She was already done amazingly well in the first one. I mean, we already knew she was good, and she portrayed the role very well. She brought forth the same fucking energy in this movie. I mean, she brought it even harder, honestly. I think, honestly, she was given a lot better stuff to work with. And she'd already been doing well, but she just, like I said, she was given better stuff that accented her performance better.
That an actual chance, like she didn't really have.
That's what I mean. That's what I mean. Is she was given a lot of stuff to accent her actual performance, and you know, and actually showed her in the control room and how much of a badass and how much power she actually has. She uses it to, of course, manipulate Bloodsport and leading the team. But dude, the way that she does, that's so fucked. It's so fucked. If you haven't seen the movie for some reason, she essentially, you know, threatens to put his daughter in prison, and have her killed, basically.
In the same prison.
In Belrive, yeah. And it's
he's in.
That's so fucked up. Like, beyond...
Oh, but the way that he approaches her...
I know, but that... Oh, yeah.
Beautiful.
That scene was just spectacular. James Gunn is a fucking genius for putting Idris Elba and... I keep forgetting her fucking name, who plays Amanda Waller.
But Davis.
But Amanda... No, is it Amanda Davis?
No.
No, I'm thinking of Amanda Waller.
Yeah.
No,
Viola Davis.
Viola Davis. That's what it is. So Viola Davis and Idris Elba, putting them in a room together and just letting them fucking act and letting them perform. Just Jesus, fucking brilliant, man. Fucking bravo. Like, that was such a brilliant idea. That scene was just breathtaking. Honestly, it was so captivating. Just, you're sitting there on the edge of your fucking seat the entire time, and the performances brought out of both of them is just stupid fucking good. Like, they're feeding off of each other so fucking well, and it's far and away one of my favorite scenes, and almost nothing fucking happens in it.
Yeah.
It's just a couple of people, talking, and we've been talking a lot on our channel about good acting with the Loki series and with WandaVision, and this is just another example of just fucking spectacular acting in the industry right now. Shit, I mean, it is just an amazing time to be a comic book fan.
Yes.
It really is. I can't even imagine what's in store for us in the next couple of years. You know what I mean? Like, shit's getting insane. After we get, the manipulation tactic and Bloodshot gets recruited, we get, a whole team intro where, they talk about what Peacemaker does, and that he's essentially the same, but better. Yeah. And he uses smaller bullets, which I think was an amazing fucking setup for the showdown between them two at the end. Amazing foreshadowing right there. But also, as we get that little intro, we get, like I said, they walk through and we see it has to be Crazy Quilt. We also get the little cameo from Calendar Man, which is also played by Sean Gunn. And then right behind him, I couldn't exactly tell who it was. I know me and you paused it and tried to see who it was a few times. He has an ace tattooed on his face, so the only thing I can think is that he's like the leader of the Royal Flush Gang or something like that.
And I'm what some people call mentally retarded.
I'm not exactly sure. But after that, we get the little briefing, which is hilarious. John Cena asks the whole starfish thing, all that. That whole thing was great. I was surprised that Waller gave them as much actual valuable information that actually was real as she did. But then it cuts to now when they arrive at the beach. When they do, I notice, so we see that there's like an explosion, and then it cuts and we see that it's Harley and the Team One and all that shit that's going down. There's two things that don't make sense with that. I noticed two plot holes that I just needed to point out with that. So one, when all of them are dead in the beginning and they're like, Team One's down, and she blows Savant up. After she blows Savant up, she's like, how's Team 2 doing? And they're still in the water swimming up to the island. And then it's after they're on the island and they're walking around the forest that they hear the explosion, and then it's supposedly fucking Harley and all that shit going on.
Yeah, with Javelin.
Yeah, so that doesn't really make any sense.
Well, it's okay, so they get up on the shore, and then soon after they hear the explosion.
Yeah.
So the only time it would make sense is because as soon as it happens, they have that conversation between her and Javelin, and he's like, carry it for...
No, think about this. At the beginning of the movie, when Waller blows up Savant, that's after they're all dead. That's after all of that has happened. all the explosions have gone off and shit.
Yeah, and then Harley goes and that last explosion happens. She jumps down, and then she's right by Javelin, and he's like, "Only you can carry my javelin and dies." And she's like, "For what?"
But they weren't hearing any explosions or anything going on.
My only guess because they were in the water. But I don't know. It wouldn't add up.
Yeah, I'm not sure because to me it just doesn't make any sense because, like I said, that everything happened, and then Waller said, "Oh, well, what's up with the other team?" And then they were getting up onto the shore, and then later it shows that they had been on the shore. They walked all the way through this whole forest, and then there's an explosion, and Harley goes and
because they were having the conversation about bag of dick or beach full of dicks.
Yeah. But Javelin and them were supposed to have already been dead.
Yeah.
Before they even got to the beach. I mean, hell, but there's also but to further my point is actually the second plot hole. Javelin shouldn't have his javelin in that scene at the beginning when it's panning through all of the dead bodies. If Javelin gave his javelin to Harley Quinn before that, which he was dead in that scene,
then it should be gone.
It should be gone. But in that scene, he's dead in a different position from what he died, and he has his javelin.
Because when they came up to capture Harley, even so, if they moved him for some reason, he still shouldn't have his javelin because she has it. Well, they have it, but he gave it to her.
Yeah, you see what I'm saying? So, I don't know. But, I mean, either way, it's fucking stupid nitpicking, to be honest. I mean, if those are the littlest things that we have to worry, or if those are the biggest things that we have to worry about, then, I mean, that ain't shit. No. Honestly, the entire movie makes up for it, so I can honestly forgive.
Even the time when I pointed out, like, when Peacemaker had his arm in the thing after he kills the guard, much later,
and then he all of a sudden has it outside, and
at first when I thought it was in that hole, I was like, no, his arm would be broken, and then he said, no, he.
Yeah, but I mean, even then, I mean,
fine.
He pulls it out super fast, and it shouldn't make sense, but. Really, none of that shit matters. It's a really fucking good movie, and that's what fucking matters. But okay, so the next thing I wanted to talk about was during their little camping scene. So Polka Dot Man, I love the makeup that they used for him because, like I said, most of his stuff was practical. He actually had makeup on with a bunch of LEDs under the makeup, lighting all that crap up, and making him look all swollen and shit. And
he looked like he had radioactive polka dots.
Yeah, and so he has to go purge these polka dots from an interdimensional virus that he was given from a bunch of experiments that his mom did on him and his siblings, trying to make them superheroes.
Or to kill him. Or it'll kill him if he doesn't expel them twice a day.
Yeah, exactly. But while he's doing that, then we see that King Shark tries to eat Ratcatcher 2. And that whole scene was great, where, you know, they basically, you know, domesticate King Shark, and she kind of connects with him. But while that was happening, while she was holding his, shaking his hand, and he's sitting there, you know, I was so sure that she was about to bite it, and that he was gonna rip her arm off or like eat her all of a sudden. Like, I was about to say, like, oh my god, because just the framing of everything, and how James Gunn's comedic timing works, I totally could have seen it happening, but it didn't. Instead, though, we actually got a joke about something being racist, and I am so surprised that he was able to get away with it, because it's John Cena saying that Bloodsport saying, "Oh, you're in tighty whities," was racist.
That's racist.
Yeah, and you know, it's hilarious. I love it, but I am so surprised that they let James Gunn get away with something like that. Like, honestly. But yeah, but it was fucking hilarious. I loved it. Another joke that they let him get away with that I was really surprised with was they basically let him make a COVID joke.
Yeah.
Saying, "Oh, you're not allowed to cough without your mouth, though." to the Thinker.
Yeah.
So
You
yeah,
have to cover your mouth.
Yeah, again, it just comes down to the fact that I'm.
If you don't cover your mouth when you cough, you're dead.
Yeah. Again, it just comes down to the fact that I'm so happy that they let him do whatever he wanted and let him get away with all those different jokes. Like, that's so awesome.
Mm-hmm.
But, okay, so the next scene that we gotta talk about is the fucking scene where they go to save Flag from his captors. Oh my god. That is one of my favorite fucking scenes. Like, in the entire movie. Like, that shit was just so fucking funny. Like, it's no wonder Peacemaker is getting his own series. It's no fucking wonder. He stole the show in so many scenes that he was in. But that little contest that him and Bloodsport have of who can get the coolest kill. When John Cena goes, and that's what they're showing off, is dope as fuck. That, dude, the way he's like sitting there like all precise and just super quiet, like, oh my, but he's so big, like, oh my god, that whole scene was hilarious. And then, of course, we get the reveal. Well, also getting to see Polka Dot Man's powers, that was super dope. But then, of course, we get the reveal that it wasn't captors, it was people who saved Rick Flag, and they just killed all of these rebels that they were that were on their side, essentially.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh my god. And it's so Suicide Squad. and that's another thing that I wanted to talk about was this movie is so Suicide Squad in the sense that it kind of follows that tradition of like one team just straight bites it at the beginning. You know, nobody's safe. Anybody could die at any moment. And like it feels like that, you know, uneasy alliance of a team that of colorful characters that are all villains that, you know, you want to love but you also kind of hate. Mm-hmm. And they all hate each other but love each other, and you're rooting for all of them to make it through, but at the same time none of them should, in a weird way.
And you know it's not gonna happen.
Yeah,
and you
exactly.
just don't know
exactly. And you know, the fact is they're villains, and James Gunn didn't shy away from the fact that they're villains. And I love that. It was a perfect Suicide Squad movie, and he was the perfect person to direct it. But after that hilarious scene, we get to actually see the Thinker for the first time, and we find out that he's not at all part of the squad or working with them. He's actually evil, and has Starro. And if it isn't clear by now, we didn't watch any of the marketing. We stayed away from all of the posters and everything, so that way we could go into this and pretty much everything be a surprise. The only thing we really knew is who was going to play who. But yeah, we're finding out that the Thinker has Starro, and also the fact that, you know, Starro is the villain. I mean, they had already announced it, but like I said, we had stayed away from all the marketing, so I didn't know what he was going to look like, or that if it was going to be proper Starro or what. And it was, and oh my god, it was just so great. And I love the fact that they don't show him perfectly yet. He's just on grainy old film. You can't really get a good look at him yet until the very end, and you have no comprehension of how big he is yet. But they did him so well. We'll get to that more later, but honestly, I loved the fact that Starro was in here, and I was really cool with the fact that the reveal that Thinker is not on the squad at all, that he's just a straight up villain that has been experimenting with Starro and all these fucking victims, I guess, for 30 years. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just thought that was really cool. I was not expecting that at all. I thought the Thinker was going to be on the squad somehow, or going to be some contact or some shit like that whenever I found out he was in the movie.
Makes sense.
Okay, but then, so we get this scene or two where Harley goes to, or like gets like brought to the president of the Corto Maltese, and the whole scene's a little off and weird, but you kind of get it because Harley's insane, and I think it's kind of trying to put you in her head. But then she sleeps with this dude, and I was on the verge. For a split second, I was like, man, is this movie gonna have one thing that I absolutely fucking hate about it? That they just over-sexualize the shit out of Harley Quinn for no reason, and just use her as a fucking sex object like they have in so many things. Like, I was so upset for a split second. But then they made it a thing of her getting past just being with guys no matter what, even if they're fucking insane. And that jump scare, the fact that it got both of us. Like, yeah. But the fact that it just came so out of fucking nowhere. And I didn't, assume she had a gun on her at all. And she even says it at the end. Oh, I can't believe this had a bullet. Like, I was not expecting one of those guns on the floor to actually fucking work.
Right.
So when he turned around and all of a sudden, pa! And I had about the same fucking reaction he did. Like, oh shit, what just happened? But, no, but it turned out really good. I also really, really liked how they did Harley when she fucking gets out of her restraints later. Like, they made her into such a badass in this movie, and James Gunn really knows how to do Harley Quinn.
And as she should. She should. She did all that time, all that. What does she do in that little cell aside from drink her coffee and her tea?
Right.
Hang off the bars.
One thing I wanted to mention, after the president gets killed, is James Gunn. I think James Gunn just straight up hates birds. Because he starts off the movie with Savant just straight offing a bird with his ball, and then we get that scene with the new president just burning a bunch of birds just to prove that he's fucking evil, I guess.
Because he didn't like the birdies?
Yeah. I was like, what? I didn't know. Don't get me wrong. I get it. And I get why he put it in there. And it makes sense. It does develop the character properly. Mm-hmm.
That's not an issue.
But I can't help but notice. Bro, why you gotta just kill so many birds in one movie? But, maybe it is kind of an analogy on, like, nobody's free in this. You know what I mean? Even if they think that, that it's an illusion of freedom being on the squad, being out and working for Waller. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? They
that
can't
10
really,
years off your sentence is right there in reach.
Yeah, and they can't really do anything. And 10 years off of any of their sentences would be nothing. You know what I mean? It'd be like if I snipped one hair off my beard.
Right.
You know what I mean? It wouldn't make a dent.
Well, for Savant, he has 15 years left, so that would only make 5 years.
Yeah, see, that's different. That's different. But that whole squad, and maybe that's why she picked a lot of those. Maybe they all had low sentences. And
especially like Blackguard.
And she wanted to get
Savant.
the fuck rid of them and not have them leave. But anyway, so I'm not going to go over it too much, but we get a polka dot origin. We essentially he explains the interdimensional virus and all that shit. We get a disturbing shot where everybody on the squad and some random rebel fighters are his mom. Because apparently he sees his mom all over the place all the time. Which
it helps him kill people.
Yeah. Oh my god, it's so disturbing. But anyway, while that scene plays out, I got the chance to pause it and go and translate what is on Rick Flag's shirt and what the bunny, what the sign says that the bunny is holding, and it says, "Obstacles are opportunity," which, I mean, essentially is kind of how the Suicide Squad works. Every hurdle that they get through, they have to improvise and turn it into some new plan. So I thought that was kind of cool and kind of interesting that's what that said.
Oh, for sure.
But then we get the introduction of Milton.
Milton,
man.
Milton.
Best character, man. Fuck Polka Dot, man. And fucking Milton's this shit, man. Fuck Bloodsport, fuck Peacemaker, fuck all of them.
Milton's where it's at.
Nah, but so,
Milton, I didn't know there was a Milton.
Yeah. Oh my god, King Shark is so fucking adorable. I love how they did all of the characters in this movie, but King Shark was done so perfectly, and the fact that he runs up, like, that shit was so cute. But real quick, let's go ahead and go off on a tangent real quick, and just mention the fact that these characters were done so perfect. Such perfect representations of these characters. The fact that Polka Dot Man, we had, that Norman, they didn't even say, alright, Norman Bates. Like, the fact that he's just straight up fucking nuts, and he's just off. He's crazy. He throws polka dots at people, man. Fuck, he's got interdimensional polka dot virus. What the fuck? The fact that Peacemaker is that obsessed with liberty, obsessed with freedom, fucking
at any cost.
It doesn't matter what he has to do, doesn't matter who he has to kill. He even says no matter what men, women, and children. He tells Rick Flag, even a life of a hero like yours. The fucking Rick Flag was done so much better. Ratcatcher 2. Ratcatcher 2 was a huge deal for me. I do want to say Bloodsport was really awesome and he was very well done.
Mm-hmm.
But Ratcatcher 2 was a very big deal for me because I wasn't sure how I was going to feel going into this movie about Ratcatcher 2 because I really liked the original version of Ratcatcher. I was worried that it was going to feel like Taskmaster and Black Widow, that it was just a gender swap for no reason and that they just kind of are trying to be progressive. And it totally wasn't that. It was done for a good reason. There was a reason to have her in the movie as she was, because you can make the connection with her and her father and Bloodsport and his daughter and them two being on the team together. It just all made sense. And
it made you care about the characters also.
And on top of that, she just was a good representation of the character. And I really liked that version of her, of him or her. I really like this rendition of Ratcatcher. And let's just talk for a second about the fact that Ratcatcher 1 is played by none other than Taika Waititi. I mean, it's only for a split second, but it's a very important second. The one line he gets is a very important and special line at the end. And like, I also just want to talk about the fact that I love that in a movie where we have a dude who throws polka dots at people, a dude who's so obsessed with liberty and peace that he wants to kill everyone.
And he'll eat a beach full of dicks.
I would say no problem.
So that everybody doesn't have to be at war. He'll cause war to stop war. Fucking person who controls a bunch of rats. And a dude who just fucking can use anything and turn it into a weapon. And then a giant neon starfish. A lot of people, a lot of characters that wouldn't and shouldn't be taken seriously, but are given special moments and special scenes, their own moment to shine. And it's done so fucking perfectly. I love the fact that one of the most underwhelming powers, Ratcatcher's, being able to control rats, one that, a lot of people would be like, oh, well, how would that even really be a good power, especially in, a battle like that. You would think that Polka Dot Man and Ratcatcher would be the least important characters in the battle at the end, because spoiler alert, Peacemaker is already out of the battle by the time Starro gets into it. And so you'd think Bloodsport and King Shark and Harley Quinn, not even really Harley Quinn, you think Bloodsport and King Shark are going to be like the two main big hitters against Starro, especially when fucking Bloodsport puts together that giant gun, and then even that doesn't really do much to Starro at all. King Shark doesn't really do much to Starro at all. The two that do the most damage to him are Polka Dot Man and Ratcatcher. And then Harley Quinn opens up the eyeball and, lets the rats funnel in. And I realized during that whole scene that I think King Shark was the distraction. And they had their roles. And Harley Quinn had her role. And it took until the third time I watched it to realize, but Bloodsport's power isn't using a bunch of tools off of his body. Bloodsport's power, Amanda Waller says it herself, is being a leader. And it shows that when he realizes that he needs to take charge and he throws his gun down, well, he loses his gun. And he doesn't have anything left to do against Starro, and he says, you know what? Instead of trying to fight myself, I'm going to guide these people that I have around me that can take him down for me. And he becomes that leader that Amanda Waller said she was going to make him. And it's so good. It's so cool when you think about it in that perspective too. Anyway, we're getting way ahead of ourselves, but I think it's really cool that out of the characters you'd think, would have a huge effect in the movie, you wouldn't think Ratcatcher and Polka Dot Man would be two of the biggest breakout characters. but they were, and I'm super happy about that. And I'll just take a moment to say we are getting the King Shark pop. I promise. It's coming. It's in the mail. We couldn't get it before the video. I'm sorry, but it is coming. We're gonna get it, and Bloodsport and Harley. We promise. So after the scene where they make the plan to go and meet up with the Thinker, Waller, and then they get cut off, and it's kind of just an excuse to go and let the squad do what they need to do without having the intersection and back and forth, or intervention, I mean, the back and forth between them and Waller. But there's just a split moment that it could be just taken as a throwaway thing, but it's just, that small moment shows so much character development in Amanda Waller when she's playing fucking golf while the fate of the fucking world is at stake. Mm-hmm. And she even says that she's trying to protect the fucking country and the world. Mm-hmm. She knows what's at stake. And she's willing to sacrifice all these lives. She just sent an entire team of people to just, like, get their faces blown off and just all fucked to be a distraction for one team to get in and get what she needs. And she's just sitting there practicing her swing, worried about how she's going to make a fool of herself.
Or whoever it is.
Like, that one scene shows so much about who Amanda Waller is. And the fact that they put that in there, like I said, it's a 5-second thing, a one-line moment, but it means so much. And that's one thing I do love about James Gunn is, again, it's those little things that he puts in to develop the characters. And I want to talk about that more when we come to the bar scene. After the small team building scene where we see them in the bus and we get Ratcatcher's origin. We see when we see a little bit of, like, in the Windows reflection, what happened to her dad, and it shows them together. I was sitting there thinking, like, that looks like Taika Waititi. I'm pretty sure that's who he is. I'm pretty sure, like, he's got to be who's playing him. But then when we saw him at the end in that one scene, it was like, okay, yeah, that's fuck yeah, dude. That was such an awesome reveal to me. That moment where, like I said, you know, it mattered that Ratcatcher 2 was Ratcatcher 2 and not Ratcatcher 1. It mattered that Bloodsport was there. Mm-hmm. You know, every character was there for a reason, and you could feel it in that moment. And another thing is the placing of the camera and the, you know, the lines that they use and when they use them. Just everything is very intentional, and you can tell, and it's just so good. I mean, you really feel for these characters, and I mean, like, all of them are brand new and introduced in this movie. It proves so well, and I think James Gunn worked really hard and succeeded in doing this to show that it can be done, introducing a whole squad full of characters that nobody has any idea who they are. You just gotta know how to do it.
He did 2. And the first one...
he did Guardians, and then now he's doing...
Yeah, and he did 2 teams, and the first one didn't even make it.
Yeah, exactly.
And he did it with Guardians,
yeah,
too.
Honestly. And honestly, yeah, you even feel connected to those characters from the beginning. You're right. Mm-hmm. But yeah, no, it just kind of proves that it all matters who's doing it and if they really care. Because just the mess that Suicide Squad 2016 was behind the scenes, it was never going to be a good movie because nobody gave a shit and nobody was allowed to actually make what they wanted or needed to make.
Exactly.
Speaking of team building and developing characters and introducing characters, making you feel for them, the bar scene. Oh my god, man. I hate so much that James Gunn is so good at making you fucking give a shit about all of these characters and care so much, because not only do you already care about Sebastian, Ratcatcher, and Peacemaker and all them, but then there's that one moment where Peacemaker says, hey, you forgot about the rat. And the rat's like, hey, what's up? You know? And it's just like, oh, man.
And Ratcatcher 2 was like...
Yeah, you know, like, you feel like they're family. They really care for each other. And fucking Rick Flag, you know, he says, here's to being alive in 3 hours. Man. It's just, it sucks, man, because it's such a good scene. And like I said, it shows that that you can cram a bunch of character development for a bunch of characters and make them, come together as a team in one small scene. You just have to know what you're doing and give a shit about those characters. And we get another disturbing moment with Polka Dot Man and his mom being everywhere.
His mom's.
So then at the end of the bar scene, they split up, and Polka Dot Man and Ratcatcher, they go off and they take the Thinker, and they try to meet up with them later. But Bloodsport and Rick Flag and Peacemaker, they go off and they get captured. Now,
turn themselves in.
Yes. Now, I want to talk about the Thinker, Peter Capaldi. His acting in that scene. I loved when Polka Dot Man pulls the gun on him and he's like just panicked as hell. The Thinker's like, oh yeah, what's up? What are you gonna do with it? Like, just the look on his face is perfect. The body language that he uses, the blocking is perfect. When he walks out and he's like, oh, you're perceivably panicked, so you're not the alpha. Like, there's the way that he talks to Ratcatcher and shit. It's very much so the Thinker, and it feels really good. They again, perfect casting. They chose a really good guy. Hell, he's one of the doctors. So I mean, it couldn't have been better. But so the moment with Peacemaker and Bloodsport and Rick Flag, where they do the one-shot kill on those three guys. So it's a cool scene, and I really, really like that scene. I love how in sync they are. I really like everything about that scene. I truly do. But I only think it was a little bit of a missed opportunity. If I were to change anything in this movie, it wouldn't even be the little plot holes I was talking about earlier. But it would be the fact that they talk about, Bloodsport, he can make anything into a weapon. He's this master of, using anything and turning it into something deadly.
His father was a mercenary who taught his son to use anything as a weapon.
Exactly. I think that, he should have, when he got that cigarette, I was hoping that it was like, oh, fuck, you just fucked up. And he was going to use that, and, flick it at the guard and, turn that into a weapon and not even need to use his hands and then get free and then let the other guys out. How it happened is still cool. I still really, really like the scene. I don't mean to sound ungrateful or like it wasn't good. It was. But I do think that was a little bit of a missed opportunity if I were to nitpick about anything, really. If I were to change anything. Okay, so the next thing I wanted to mention was Harley's rescue. Where she totally rescues herself. She breaks out and she... it's a kick-ass scene. She fucking breaks that dude's neck, gets the keys, fucking breaks herself out, and she fucking... kills everybody there.
She makes it like a waltz.
Yeah. And and it's like a dance for her. And I love the way that James Gunn portrayed that scene with all the visuals, because it feels like that's some shit that she sees when she's killing people to help her kind of justify it and cleanse herself of the gruesome shit that she's actually doing. That's what she sees in her head ever since she's gotten all twisted from the Joker.
Especially the javelin. She's like,
yeah,
my purpose.
Yeah, and it looks like almost like a video game where it's you stumble upon an item that you're supposed to use for a quest. I really loved that whole scene. It was so done, and I loved the clever cuts to and the clever lighting tricks they used to put the stunt woman in and to hide the change from the stunt woman to Harley. You can tell that's what they did, but they did it in a clever way to where I'm happy with it, and it looked really cool. And it's impressive nonetheless, especially because, like I said, I like that they did a lot of this stuff practically, and you can tell that they set it up to where it was very clever the way they had everything set. You could tell that she walked behind that pillar, and Margot Robbie was probably waiting to walk out on the other side with the camera as it went along. One thing I did want to mention when she's breaking out is the torture. He goes to like text his girlfriend or something, I guess, and he's like texting using a bunch of emojis and shit like that.
Yeah.
I saw it and I was like, what the fuck, dude?
And it was perfect though, because he even had like the chica in the red dress and everything.
Yeah, I was like, what the fuck, dude? You're sitting there torturing this bitch and then you're gonna tell somebody about it in emoji. What the fuck, dude? But
it would be so modern though, like.
I mean, honestly. But anyway, so we get the scene where they're all talking on the roof and they're discussing how they're gonna sneak into Jotunheim. We get that little cough joke. That rooftop scene, it really reminded me of the scene from the trailer for the Suicide Squad Kills the Justice League game that's coming out, I think, next year. It's very reminiscent of that scene, in my opinion, anyway. But so they make a plan, and they essentially go. One team goes down with the Thinker, and gets.
Which is Ratcatcher 2 and I think it's just supposed to be Ratcatcher 2
and Rick Flag. And they go down with him to essentially like shut everything down, right?
Essentially, well, that's what she was. She was under the impression that they were
just stopping everything. Yeah, right. And so turns out they were supposed to just essentially fry everything
and wipe that.
Yeah.
The American government had anything to do with anything there.
Right, and we get the scene where fucking Peacemaker turns on Rick Flag. I hate it because it's so in character.
It really is because it's, like I said, it's not, he didn't change or anything.
No, it works. And as much as I hate to say
Waller
it, he's
was
right. As much as I hate to say it, Peacemaker's right. If that shit gets out, it will cause an international incident, and it would probably cause wars. And that's exactly what Peacemaker is against.
And that's the perfect reason why Waller would have him as the backup plan to make sure.
Right. And so it fit. It worked. I didn't like it, but again, I did like it. But again, it's just one of those things. It's like, damn, man. Of course, it sucks because Rick Flag had to die, and well, he didn't have to, but you know what I mean. And so, and then Peacemaker dies, and he's, or at least taken out of the fight. Another thing about him turning is that does fit with the fact that it's a Suicide Squad movie. These are not heroes. They're villains. They're all bad guys. You can't get too attached or trust any one of them, really. And I love that they had the balls to stick with that and not just, oh, now we're all good guys. Like, yeah, one of them's still a fucking villain. He's still a bad guy. I mean, they are all still bad guys. And I think that's another good reason for, Bloodsport to, have kept the drive and used it as leverage, because he has to save his and his team's own skin, and that's what he does. Yep. And sure, it might not be the right thing, but that's what he's got to do. And one thing that I have in my notes that I almost forgot about is so the Thinker during the whole Starro reveal, Starro says that he had his way with him. So did Thinker like fuck Starro?
That's what it sounded like. But okay.
What, did he fuck one of those weird little, like, slits on the side, on the armpit or whatever? That I don't even want it.
Oh, that's nasty.
Either that or it's something with the already infected.
Yeah. I don't know, man. That was weird.
Because I didn't think that at first.
That whole scene, though.
When she said that, had his way with me, and I was just like, and then he's like, look on his face, and I'm like,
yeah.
Oh,
that whole scene, though, was gruesome. Like, the amount of gore in it was... It was borderline a horror movie. Yeah. And that shit was insane. It looked really cool, and it was crazy. The effects were awesome, but holy shit, it was terrifying, honestly.
It's pretty sick.
Yeah.
It made me sick now.
Yeah. But during all that, while all that's happening, we get... later we get the cut back to show that 8 minutes earlier, they all split up, and Peacemaker and King Shark and all of them were set in the C4. And I just realized the reason that King Shark was left alone, Peacemaker was probably supposed to stay with King Shark.
But instead went down.
But so man, poor King Shark. It's so sad how they treat King Shark in a lot of this, but it's not really like they purposely were treating him like that. He's a giant shark. They can only do so much to have him around.
Right, and they can't have him in a little bar.
In a public place, yeah.
Or, yeah.
Yeah.
And Ratcatcher, too, would have been, because she's, like, basically his only friend. Like, she took care of him a lot, but she had to go and do her own thing, too. Like, she had to go and help set up the bombs.
Right. Speaking of setting up bombs and everything, I love that little moment that we get. He's like, Peacemaker.
Yeah.
And Peacemaker's like, it's actually very nice.
Yeah.
Fuck yeah. That shit was hilarious.
He's like, no, stop being a play baby.
God damn it. No way. I hate to say it, but it's gotta be Polka Dot Man, of course, who fucks it all up with the fucking explosives.
Well, and that was a whole ass thing, too.
But, dude, I can't, oh my god, I can't get over that. So when they're splitting up, the fact that he runs, they give everybody the bombs, and he's like, oh, and he's stumbling off, and he's got a fucking Walmart bag full of C4. Everybody else has a duffel bag, and he's got a fucking Walmart bag. Him and Milton have Walmart bags full of fucking C4. And I'm like, god damn it. And I thought it was hilarious until, of course, because he has them in a Walmart bag, the Walmart bag fucking breaks out from under it. Yeah, and he lets out my favorite line in the movie. Oh, fiddlesticks. Hold on. And, he fucking stops.
It did save him though, because he stopped and ducked.
He stops, gets down, starts to get the explosives, and then Milton dies.
The whole ass thing.
They have the whole scene with Milton. That shit was hilarious.
Milton, there was a guy named Milton this whole time with us, and I never knew that. I would have known that.
Yeah.
And they were like, and he's like,
Milton.
Look at him, now he's dead.
Or yeah.
Oh, Milton.
Are you playing around right now? That shit was so funny.
And then, of course, Deadsport was like,
that shit was so fucking
Milton!
Funny. That shit was so fucking funny.
And then he's like, what kind of love obsession do you have now with Milton? I liked him at first, too. I just didn't say anything.
Yeah. But,
I liked him in the beginning, didn't say anything.
But, okay, so, but then they get ambushed, and then Polka Dot Man...
Not thinking.
Yeah, he, out of instinct, throws the polka dots out of his gauntlets all over these fucking guards.
And as soon as he did it, Harley yelled, no, but it was too late.
And it hits the fucking C4, explodes, everything goes off way too early. We get the fake out that King Shark dies. And that scared the shit out of both of us, man. We were both super sad because we were both worried that he was already going to die because it felt like it was leading up to him dying.
Oh yeah, his new dope friends had teeth.
Yeah.
I thought he died then.
Yeah. So thankfully he wasn't there, and I was hoping because he's tough, because he is King Shark, that wouldn't have affected him. And when he kind of started to cover himself, I was like, okay, hopefully that's not like a death reflex. Hopefully he's just covering himself in the bullets and he's about to go rager. Sure enough, he fucking did, thankfully.
Rips the guy's head off.
Oh my God,
I feel like it would be so accurate though, because they say, like, especially when they use the guillotine and cut your head off, the brain still has a
yeah, that's fucking terrifying. Oh, and also another thing with King Shark and him mutilating something when he tears that dude apart. Such an amazing fucking shot. That shit looks like it would be a fucking comic book cover, straight up.
Fatality.
Yeah, that's what we were talking about. Yeah, earlier. It straight up seems like a fatality, and so many of the deaths in this feel like a fucking Mortal Kombat fatality. It's insane. Fucking Polka Dot Man's power in general seems like a fucking fatality.
Yeah.
So we get the convergence of the two teams where Peacemaker is about to kill Ratcatcher and Bloodsport is falling through those levels and fucking basically meets up eye to eye.
Oh, and that
showdown was so fucking awesome. And when you realize that that's what's about to happen, it's just like, oh fuck yeah, dude, hell yes. And then boom, and then the way he fucking kills him, and smaller bullets.
Yeah.
It's just like, oh dude, fuck yes.
And when you see him and he lands in that pose, he looks up and he's looking at what's going on, and it's like he has a gun to his daughter.
Yeah.
And you're just like,
yeah.
Oh shit, like.
Because they make that connection earlier, and oh man, that is.
He even says, "You remind me of my daughter."
That was such a good fucking scene, man. I love that shit. But after that, after he kills Peacemaker, we get Starro the Conqueror versus the Suicide Squad.
She said, Ratcatcher 2 says, "Oh, I think he's trying to get who?"
Yeah, we get Starro the Conqueror versus Suicide Squad, man. Oh fuck. That battle was so fucking cool, man. I love that everybody kind of got to use their own powers and everybody had a moment.
It just sucks that Polka Dot Man's was kind of shortly lived.
Yeah, it sucks that...
Thankfully, we've gotten to see his... But that's the thing, we've gotten to see it throughout.
Yeah,
so...
and the one thing that I really liked about Polka Dot Man is, like you said, we got to see his powers used quite a bit. He got a good moment in the sun. And it felt like he overcame his, fucking, oh, I need to be a superhero, kind of thing. And he got to go out on a high note.
Exactly.
He got to go out happy instead of being miserable like he normally was.
And it's so funny that his mom was Starro and the way that... And when he, did the polka dots and injured his ankle, and it was, the mom's ankle.
Oh, and that's another thing I wanted to mention was Starro. He was done so fucking perfectly in this, and I love the fact that, they stayed true to him in the comics and everything. I hate that they fucking, we'll get to it, but I love the fact that, there's just, the whole final battle is so goofy and just off the wall and what the fuck is going on. But the fact that he takes over everybody and everything, it's fucking terrifying the way they portray him. And Starro's a super underrated villain who is extremely powerful. I mean, he was, if you don't know, he was the Justice League's first villain.
It's pretty funny, the people they use to speak and say, "This is my city," or whatever. City's mine.
I love who
hilarious.
They used. Yeah, I love who they used and everything. It was all perfect. But man, how are you gonna make us after all of that, and we're like, hell yeah, they won? Be like, have Starro be like, I was happy floating, staring at the stars. That shit was so fucking sad, man.
It was.
Oh my god, dude, I
awful.
can't stop thinking about the fact that it's well, fuck, dude, I wish
they could have just sent him up.
Yeah, or something. But what were they gonna do? I mean, he was trying to take over. You can't just fucking let him.
And he's huge now. Then I like how when they captured
and tortured
him, exactly, and his mind was, but when they captured him at first, when he was in space and they captured him, he was probably
he was the size of this room.
Well, I don't think he was that big.
Well,
he was fit in a spacecraft.
Yeah, true, but
they had him for 30 years.
Well, I mean, this wall. This wall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But still, I don't think he was that big. He was much, much smaller, and it shows that they kept him for 30 years, and he's huge now.
Right.
So,
and now they've been feeding him more and more and more and more.
Exactly. What are you going to do to
on him?
Launch him up there?
Right.
He can't go himself, so...
Right, yeah. Like that dude said, it's a fucking kaiju now.
The kaiju up in the shit.
Yeah. But, so... They finish him off, and again, I fucking love how they finish him off. I love that Ratcatcher ends up being a huge, huge fucking part of it. I love that Polka Dot Man ends up being a huge part of it. Mm-hmm. At the end, we see that Bloodsport, he has to use that drive as leverage, and he says it himself, I know Rick Flag wanted it to get to the press, but what are we going to do? And I mean, it makes sense. They needed some sort of leverage, and it sucks, but like I said... They're villains. They gotta look out for their own. And I mean, even if they weren't villains, what else are they gonna do?
Right.
Waller would have killed them otherwise.
Right.
Flat out.
And comedic timing, though.
Yeah.
They had that whole...
yeah, I'll be your friend.
I'll be your friend, Milton.
Yeah.
Not my name.
But being that it's the end, there was the moment at the end where he finally pets Sebastian. Sebastian finally sits on his lap and goes to sleep. That was
and everyone was just so
just wore out. The final scene, it was super fucking cool. It was super sweet. And then we see the mid-credit scene where we find out that Weasel is actually alive, and that he scurries off on the beach,
But, like,
wherever.
he's not even in the part of the beach that he was at when Simone...
Yeah, he had to have, like, floated off and fucking washed up somewhere else.
Yeah, that's gotta been that whole thing happened.
Right.
Everything happened. In the whole process. And then he's like...
Right, exactly. So he scurries off, and then we get the post-credit scene where we find out that Peacemaker is not actually dead. Of course, he's alive, and
Was
they
found.
need him. Yeah, and they need him to go save the world. So that's clearly teasing and leading into the Peacemaker series, which, from what if I remember correctly, I think it's also James Gunn that's doing it. So that's awesome.
Yeah. It is awesome.
But yeah, I cannot wait to see that. I don't even know what it could be that they need him for to save the world. Like, I am super intrigued to find out, though. And of course, I can't wait to try to cover as much of it as I possibly can. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you're notified of that when it comes out and all of my upcoming content. If you like the video, don't forget to leave a like at the bottom. It definitely helps out the channel. And don't forget to share the video with somebody who's into the Suicide Squad or somebody who's into the DCEU. And let us know what you thought in the comments, and let's get some theories going. I'd love to hear what you guys think about the movie and what y'all think about the Peacemaker series and where it's going to lead and what's going to actually happen in it. Because I have no idea what they could be using Peacemaker for, but I'm super excited to find out. As always, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I really appreciate you guys watching. And of course, I hope y'all have a spectacular day.
Bye.